I'm going to switch some of these things and get to what you should do during our last few minutes here. Because this is an interaction of the immune system of the brain and the excitotoxic system of the brain, they're connected, they're occurring at the same time. You've got to reduce the inflammation and you've got to reduce the excitotoxicity if you want to stop the degenerative process. Well, a couple of things you want to concentrate on. And what we know is that in all cases of immunoexcitotoxicity, there are high levels of brain-free radical generation. So you want antioxidant protection. We know that there's depleted mitochondrial function. So you want to increase the energy production of neurons. That greatly enhances their protection. You want to improve detoxification. Because when you can't detoxify pesticides or herbicides well, then they become more neurotoxic. Same thing for mercury. And you want to avoid these metal toxins like mercury, lead, aluminum, fluoride, fluoroaluminum, pesticides, herbicides. All these things are things that activate immunoexcitotoxicity in the brain. So one thing you want to do, you want to increase your antioxidant enzyme levels in your brain. Well, melatonin not only helps you sleep, but it elevates the antioxidant enzymes in the brain, like superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione reductase, are all increased by melatonin. We know that melatonin also suppresses excitotoxicity in the brain. Curcumin is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, and it's a very powerful antioxidant, particularly for 4-HNE, which is a very powerful lipid peroxidation product. The other antioxidants like vitamin C and E have no effect on 4-HNE and many of the lipid peroxidation products. Zinc and selenium is important. You don't want to overdo zinc because it can be neurotoxic. Selenium can neutralize mercury toxicity to the brain and fluoride toxicity to the brain and possibly lead. Selenium is very, very important for the brain. Your vitamins, of course, they're all antioxidants. They need to be taken in combination. Your flavonoids, the most powerful antioxidant for brain, are quercetin, curcumin, spiridin, ellagic acid, resveratrol, R-lipoic acid. All these things are extremely powerful protectants for the brain and reduce immunoexcitotoxicity damage. Magnesium is very, very important. You want to increase energy production by the brain. So things like pyruvate, malate, creatine pyruvate all elevate energy production in brain cells. And as I said, when the energies increase, it's highly protective against excitotoxicity. Acetyl-L-carnitine will bind excess iron in the brain and help reduce free radical generation. It stimulates energy production by the mitochondrion. It reduces seizure occurrence by raising the threshold. R-lipoic acid is very powerful. It also helps prevent excitotoxicity directly, and that's been shown in a number of studies. Ginkgo biloba, both the ginkgoloid components and quercetin, which is very high in ginkgo biloba, are protective. Vinpocetine has been shown to directly block excitotoxicity. Your B vitamins for energy, particularly B1, riboflavin, pyridoxine 5-phosphate, and niacinamide. And taurine is the brain's neuromodulator. So basically what you need to take away from here is that we're discovering that immunoexcitotoxicity process is the most important process, and virtually anything can happen to the nervous system. It is automatically triggered. There's evidence that in some people and under some pathologic conditions it's activated, cannot turn off, and that there's evidence that doing these things, protective things that I've talked about, may be able to shut it off. For instance, like silymarin has been shown to be very powerful at low doses in shutting down microglia overactivity, and that shuts down a lot of the immunoexcitotoxicity. By combining all of these things, you get the greatest effect. There's synergism between them. Avoid these excitotoxins in the diet is very important because if you already have this process occurring, you don't want to keep fueling it by the excitotoxins inside of your diet. Some foods naturally contain high levels of glutamate, like meats, particularly red meats are very high in glutamate. When you cook meats, the juices are extremely high in glutamate. It's just like liquid MSG. That's why it tastes so good when you put it on your food. Tomatoes, when they're pureed, have high glutamate levels. Parmesan cheese is very high in glutamate. All cheeses generally have elevated glutamate. So there's natural foods, and we know in ALS, for instance, if you feed them those foods, their blood level is twice as high as normal. So they have a particular concentrating ability just from eating natural foods with glutamate. So you need to reduce your intake of protein foods. I'm against all of this protein consumption that's very popular now because most of those are very high in glutamate, aspartic acid, glycine, all of which are excitotoxins. You should eat a moderate amount of protein, lots of flavonoids in fruits and vegetables. Avoid fluoride and aluminum. Drinking water has fluoride and aluminum in it. It's naturally added to the water. It forms a fluoroaluminum compound which activates G proteins, which is the activating component of metabotropic glutamate receptors. So if you watch your diet and you take a few supplements to neutralize these effects as you get older, take the melatonin, you can significantly reduce your risk of immunoexcitotoxicity. And as I said, these neurodegenerative diseases start decades before any clinical symptoms arise, so that period of opportunity is quite long, and that's when we need to start preventing these diseases. If you wait until you already have the symptoms, you're fighting to save that last 20 to 30% of cells that are already sick. So at that point, I'm going to terminate the discussion. It's a lot more involved in this, but in 40 minutes you can't cover that much, but I think you've got the gist of what's involved.